Hey everybody, welcome to G4G on YouTube. This video is probably about a week late at this point, and that is mostly because getting the new computer set up has definitely been fraught with its headaches. The Iron Maiden Legacy of the Beast video was the last one that I had done on the old computer, and the Fantastic Four update to Marvel Strike Force was going to be the first one that I was going to do on the new PC. Unfortunately, the GeForce Experience, which is what I use for my recording and also used to use for the streaming back in the Marvel Avengers Alliance days, had some issues, and I spent the better part of Sunday and Monday working on it, only to come to find out that the fix for it was also a fix for Chrome that I was having, and it wound up being a Windows cryptographic service error. Believe it or not, that fix actually fixed both Chrome and the GeForce Experience, and what was really odd is Edge and Firefox were working fine. Chrome was the only browser affected by it. So when I was getting this new PC, I happened to encounter a camera on the Razer site called the Razer Kaio, which is a round USB webcam that has a light ring on it, similar to what you see in actual professional production. If you've ever caught any videos where you can see the ring in somebody's eye, that's basically what this camera has. I said, alright, I'm going to pick this up and I'm going to install it on the new PC when it's up and running. Well, it doesn't work with the GeForce Experience. Who knew that? Who would expect that? So what I'm doing is I'm actually using the Windows camera app down here to give me a camera frame rather than have the GeForce Experience do it. So if I ever start streaming Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux when it actually comes out, a little bit in later alphas or deeper betas, when it's more appropriate to stream, like it's not really worth kind of streaming it right now, but when there's more features to it and it gets closer to the game that died in 2016, I would like to stream it again. So I'm probably going to have to do something like this. It's just something that neither Nvidia nor Razer are interested in attempting to fix. There's not that much crossover between the two companies, so I don't really know why, but it seems to be the way the Kaio registers itself with Windows. It doesn't really tell Windows fully that it's a camera, so the GeForce Experience doesn't pick it up. Yet, everything on the system seems to pick up the USB sensor for my OSVR. So it is a camera, quote unquote, but it's a camera designed to see where you are in space for VR stuff, and it actually wants to pick that up more than the Kaio. But maybe I would eventually go to a Logitech for something like that, but it just, I don't know, kind of seems like a waste. Anyway, so we're going to take a look at the Fantastic Four update here in Marvel Strike Force, and we're going to go ahead and discuss the characters. So first, I'm going to get my 540 Days Hulk over here. And so we've got some events going on. You can get character shards over here for this event, which is 2 in 1. That has just recently started. We've got about 13 days for that. We've got Magneto starting in about 2 hours. We have the Marvel 80th going on, which means you can get extra shards for Captain America, Hawkeye, Groot, Black Panther, Storm, Miss Marvel, and Doctor Strange. All of the heroes ones and the villains ones are accessible to me. I know Storm I recently got unlocked, and it looks like I could probably get Miss Marvel and Doctor Strange too. There comes that time sometimes for me when it comes to PvE content where I sort of begin to get so focused on other things I actually forget to like go through the story, which is one of the easiest things to do in this game. But yeah, so let's take a look at the roster. The first thing we want to do is look at who is available for the Marvel 80th, and here you go. So these are characters that when the Marvel 80th thing launches on the 11th, if you start using these guys in Blitz, you get some bonuses, and actually it's a fairly solid team. For me, Black Widow, Captain America, Hawkeye could go for Avengers, and then Rocket boosting tech. He doesn't really have anybody he can work with, but he is a massive amount of damage. You've got Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Deadpool, Wolverine, Thanos, Miss Marvel, Storm, Groot, Hulk, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, BP, Thor, and of course the Fantastic Four. So it's a pretty solid, accessible roster. You've got some tanks. You've got somewhat of a healer in Doctor Strange. You've got somewhat of a healer in Scarlet Witch. You've got tons of damage dealers. I mean, Spider-Man, when he's really buffed up, is good. Black Widow. Deadpool can be obnoxious as he walks around tanks. Hawkeye is a buff remover. Thanos can feed energy to cosmic people. Wolverine is not the best damage dealer in the world, but he's still got one ability that's pretty good. Hulk can go in with these original Avengers and get some boosts over there. So it's, you know, you've got a lot available to you for it, and you could probably field 2, if maybe not 3 teams for it. So today is Orb and Catalyst Day. Really should check if I can get up to tier 8. So tier 8 is... Oh yeah, damn, I should definitely be doing tier 8. Blasters allowed. So a lot of people believe that Human Torch is really going to help the blasters out. I mean, Rocket is really good for it. Green Goblin is. And then after those two, it sort of thins out a little bit. Iron Man would work really well with Rocket because of tech. So yeah, I really should start bumping those up too. You just sort of get complacent at times and you just go for the auto clicks and you don't always push yourself. Alright, so let's take a look at Fantastic Four characters. So we have Human Torch, Mr. Fantastic Thing, and actually Namor is available to it also, even though he's not being declared as Fantastic Four. He's sort of like their kingpin, but he's not actually sharing some of the similar traits, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Earlier in the week, I always like to do these videos as a surprise and kind of not know what I'm talking about ahead of time, because I get to share the experience of learning just as much as you guys would early on. It's so late now, I've already had to look at these characters. So Human Torch is here in Cosmic Bio Blaster, Fantastic Four, Marvel 80th. Blaster is good for Blaster Day, and because he's cosmic, that means he could also work with Thanos, and he is a hero, but he's not a brawler, so he's not obviously not going to work with Miss Marvel. Here we go again with bleeds on a fire person. I've said this many times now. I really wish they would come up with another debuff that reduces hit points and stop calling it bleed, because if anything, flame cauterizes bleeds. You have that in World of Warcraft. You have that in a lot of games where flames stop bleeds, and that's what you have in real life. Cauterize a wound means to use flame to it to stop it. So this continued insistence on using burning as a bleed debuff just means Foxnext is just kind of lazy. They really need to, I think, invent poison to reduce your hit points and give it a Green Goblin, and I think they need to change flaming people from bleed to burning, just like Marvel Avengers Alliance did. So anyway, you have attacking the primary target for damage, applying bleed, and at the orange level you have 2 turns of bleeds. Not really orange worthy, in my opinion. Heating up, gain offense up to a maximum of 5, and you attack the primary target, so you're not losing a turn to buff over here. Apply offense up to a maximum of 3 to a random Fantastic Four or Namor ally. So here's where you start seeing Namor come in, even though he's not Fantastic Four. This one I think is orange worthy because at the end he gets 2 offense ups, apply 1 offense up to all of the Fantastic Four or Namor, and damage. You can't go wrong with something like that. When you get to not waste a turn using a buff and still do damage and give your buff to your team, that's orange worthy in my book. So you have Supernova attacking all allies for damage, offense down to a random, unavoidable, can't be countered. You would expect something like this. I mean, this dates all the way back to Marvel Avengers Alliance for Supernova. Offense down to 2 random enemies, 3 random enemies. Now you have all enemies the whole way through, so it's a full AoE. And then eventually more damage and offense down to all enemies. I'd say it's orange worthy, but not in like the number 1 or 2 slot for the Fantastic Four. He gains resistance to bleeds, which means he becomes good against other Human Torches, Pyro, etc. More damage, Fantastic Four and Namor gain damage. He begins to flip negative effects to positive effects, which means if he... This was something that I noticed early on. So he has this incredible resistance to bleed, but then he starts flipping negative effects to positive effects. That means he never gets a chance to flip a bleed to a regen. In a way that sort of hurts him. So, yeah, you know, you can flip tons of really important debuffs like offense down and everything, but it is almost a shame that he can never turn a bleed to a rejuve because of his incredible resistance. And finally, on turn, flip 2 negative effects to positive effects, gain damage, and Fantastic Four and Namor allies gain more damage. So he's got 2 moves that bump damage up for the team, and here he's flipping. So this one I think is fairly orange worthy also. And then Flame On is his passive. Well, that's what we were looking at. So he's pretty good. Definite key member of a Fantastic Four team. So now we have Mr. Fantastic, who's a controller, not a brawler. You could have gone the route of brawler if you make him similar to how he was in MAA, where he was known for his incredibly high crits. Surprisingly, he's not tech. I mean, he doesn't... Other than the Bifurcator in MAA, he didn't really ever use tech. And you can see he's not equipped with it, but with his genius and the fact that he makes everything for the Fantastic Four, you could have maybe thought they would put tech on him, but no, he's just a controller. And he's cosmic, so again, Thanos. Attack the primary target, chain, damage up, chain to more targets, damage up, chaining to more targets, and eventually more damage to primary and secondary, chain to 3. Orange worthy, but again, fairly low in the ranking. Attack the target and stun at 30% chance. Then it eventually gets up to 50, and then it always applies the stun, does damage. I mean, to take a percentage-based stun and make it a permanent stun, I think is orange worthy. And fairly high up there too. Orbital Assault, clear defense up from the primary target, attack the target for damage, gain a whole host of extra focus, and then the whole way through, all it does is up the damage and up the damage. So Orbital Assault is not really high up there for orange on me. And for his passive, he gains resistance, FF and Namor gain resistance, on self and each FF ally's turn, 25% chance to apply Assist Now to self, Namor or a random FF ally. If Assist Now is applied, clear blind on that target. So, also on turn, choose 1 random enemy. If they have a positive effect, remove it. That's pretty good. That's sort of like a Yondu over there. And anytime you can build a team around removing buffs, you're immediately good against shield, and you're immediately good against the defenders. So, gain focus, better chances of Assist Now. On turn, choose 3 random enemies. If they have a positive effect, remove 1. So this is definitely orange worthy. This is... that is absolutely worth it. to remove buffs, especially with what is common in the meta now. Namor is classified as a villain, and Namor has always had that kind of 50-50 thing going on. He's been really arrogant, he's really been a shit, but at the same time he's also generally acted as good. So it's interesting they classify him as villain. So that means even though we finally get a brawler here, we do not get somebody who works with Miss Marvel. So you don't get the hero brawler thing. He's villain, he's global, he's not cosmic, so he's not going to work with Thanos, he's mutant, and he's a Marvel 80th. Neptune's trident is just damage and piercing. Not really orange worthy. Tidal wave. Attack the primary target, attack adjacent targets, on target block, attack 2 more times, and then you get piercing. So it's like, hey, you know, the Captain Americas, the minions with the heavy block, like shield and everything. It's like, hey buddy, screw your block. Unfortunately, none of the upgrades really ever update the block part of this. Like maybe he could have pushed it up to 3. It's a fairly vanilla progression, but it is a decent amount of damage, so I would say maybe that's mid-tier orange worthy. Giganto. Attack all enemies for 100% damage. On war offense, this attack always crits. It clears a positive effect from each target, and it changes the speed bar. It's unavoidable and can't be countered. And as you update it, it does more damage, it does more stuff for war offense, and eventually at the bottom, 50% extra damage. All enemies clear the positive effects, and negative 10% speed bar on all enemies. Yeah, that sounds orange worthy to me. So here we have gaining damage. Spawn with offense up for 2 turns to a random FF, ally, or himself. On spawn, apply deflect. So that's a way of getting deflect on war offense. It's a shame this doesn't have the most PvE ramifications or PvP. The fact that it's really skewed for war is kind of sad, but you know, for a lot of people, war is extremely big, so it makes sense. And here we have the Thing, which I'll be unlocking in just a moment. He's hero, he's cosmic, good for Thanos, he's a brawler. Again, finally something for Miss Marvel. He's Fantastic Four, and he's Marvel 80th. Unlike a lot of other games with Thing, they're actually making him more of a brawler than a protector. Back in Marvel Avengers Alliance, he was a fairly low-hitting, super vanilla tank that a lot of people considered just terrible past the beginning of the game, and he got no love, and many of the Fantastic Four didn't, except for Invisible Woman, which we don't really have access to seeing now. So he gains damage and a bonus attack, and then eventually he can bump it up to guaranteed 2 times. So I would think if he's doing reasonable damage, this is mid-tier orange. Haymaker is just huge damage. I think somewhere around 4, they should have given it a 50% chance to stun, and at 7, give it a 100% chance to stun, considering you're saying it's a Haymaker, it's big, two-handed heavy hit. You would think a stun could be built into that, but okay. And then its passive is Clobbering Time. When attacked, attack that enemy for 50% damage. So it seems to be a permanently guaranteed counter. Fantastic Four gain armor, and Namor. He's probably the lowest orange candidate on the group, unless of course he starts doing huge damage for his abilities. So let's try to go ahead and open him up, and then we'll wrap up the video. So you have the Earth's Finest Orbs, which are doing Thing Shards and others. And then of course we still have Bird of Prey, we have Uncanny, Clobbering Time, Heavy Metal. You know, I never see Colossus anywhere. I don't see him in War, I don't see him in Arena, I don't see him in Blitz. I just really kind of wonder where Colossus's niche is. But then again, I've always postulated that a potential all bruiser with maybe a healer defense team would work in Arena, because if your defense team lives through the timer, you wind up with the win, and the attacker winds up with the loss, even if they're ahead on hit points or characters. So even if Thing is the only person left on a defending team, and the complete offense is left, the defense team takes the win, which I don't necessarily think is the most fair thing, but I guess in a way it is, because if you would eventually wind up losing the match if you played it the whole way through, but you attack one character and beat it and then hands off the keyboard and let the timer expire, that isn't particularly fair. Alright, so we've recruited him. He already had a red star that I purchased from Elite Credits. It looks like we're able to rank him up. And we can rank him up again. So he's 3 stars for me and 1 red star. Let's give him a little bit of training. Let's bump him right up to 20. And let's give him a round of gear. So some people have made mention of the fact that when he stands next to the Hulk, he actually dwarfs the Hulk, and how much of a problem that actually is. And not that I've ever read this particular comic, but I do know that Thing went up against the Hulk at least a few times in the comics, but I don't honestly remember who won. Well, let's see what my red star dwarves get me. It's probably going to be a duplicate. But if it's not, that's handy. Yeah, that's a duplicate. Wow, my Iron... I really need to work on my defenders if my Iron Fist is going to be 5 red stars. I'm curious, as we end the video, how do you guys feel about teams that punch up so heavily? Do you agree with the fact that simply because of team synergy, and this happens somewhat for Guardians, but very much for S.H.I.E.L.D. and very much for Defenders, do you feel that it's fair that a team that is considerably lower on paper simply because of their synergy can punch up, or do you think that that is exactly what the game should do? I sort of hate going into a war offense and going into a blitz or an arena, not so much blitz but mostly arena, seeing a team that's like, okay, you know, they're 13, I'm 17, I'm 18, but it's Defenders, I should get it, and then you go in there and you're like, man, this didn't work out too well, even though on paper it looks like you are considerably stronger, and it's simply the synergy that does it. I had a war offense the other day, yesterday, where I attacked a S.H.I.E.L.D. team that didn't have Nick Fury, and I had 10k, 11k on them, I think it was. I was like, alright, they don't have Nick Fury, this is going to work out. And I went in there, and like, I just wasn't able to dent them, because they got into this loop that didn't work out very well. So it was the medic, it was the operative, it was security. It basically was these 5 S.H.I.E.L.D. here minus Fury. S.H.I.E.L.D. Trooper was not particularly strong for him. He wasn't really doing a lot of damage. And it mostly was this constant bounce back and forth of like, alright, I'm going to get rid of the operative. The operative made herself invisible. Okay, I'm going to get rid of security so that I can get to the people that I want to get to. Start damaging security. The operative's cloak comes up, cloaks the security. The S.H.I.E.L.D. medics healing work, the S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives healing work, and I was bouncing back and forth between the operative and security, and I just couldn't make a dent, because when one of them would get low, either the taunt would come up or the cloak would come up, and it was just me fighting A and B and A and B, and I just wasn't able to make headway. Really, probably what I should have done with enough thinking is begun to spill damage to a third target to try and get the cloak to somebody I didn't care about, and then get rid of the operative or the security or the medic and mop up with them. But the assault and troopers were kind of non-issues. It really was the medic, security, and operative that just kind of wound up doing me in. And I went in there with a hardy team, but I didn't go in there with a particularly aggressive offense team. I think Groot was in there, Hulk was in there, Ravager, Boomer. It's just nothing that could clear the buffs, and that's why I think buff clearing is just such a good thing you need in this game. People like Yondu and Hawkeye, Quake with her middle ability, Captain America's shield does a good job of it too. So, alright guys, there we go. There is the Fantastic Four update. We've unlocked the thing, we've taken a look at all of them, including Namor. We still don't know much about Invisible Woman. And to wrap it up again for the events, we have the 2-in-1 going on. We have the Mysterio shards, sort of how we had Captain Marvel shards. We have a little under 2 hours for Asteroid M to pop up. And we have the Age of Marvel available. So, thanks for checking out the video, everybody. Marvel Future Fight and the Fantastic Four update over there will probably be the next video. And then hopefully we get some Marvel Avengers Alliance Redux 5 news going on. Goofy's been working on it as hard as he possibly can. It's just taking a little bit more time for this particular update than he thought, because he did a big fix to make future updates easier, but it's taking a lot of work to get the current one to do it. So, peace out, everybody. Nice seeing you guys again. Talk to you later.